just as important as knowing which fantasy football players you want to draft is knowing which fantasy football players you should not be drafting. So there are a couple quarterbacks on Underdog Fantasy Football and on ESPN Fantasy Football who their production on the field does not justify where they are going in fantasy football drafts, and we are going to absolutely expose them right now. The number one overrated quarterback on Underdog Fantasy Football, it's the great and powerful Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, the best quarterback in real life, but he's going off the board at fantasy football quarterback 6. Now, this is way too high for a player who recently his fantasy production just has not been anywhere close to good enough to actually justify a fantasy 6 ranking right now. Yes, when he came out, won the MVP right out of the box, quarterback 1 in his first year ever starting back in 2018, but since the NFL is now going to this cover 2 shell defense, the pass numbers are down across the board in the NFL. And Patrick Mahomes, yes, he does have some rushing upside, but he mostly relies on his arm to get those fantasy football points. And that is what has led to over the last 2 years, fantasy football 11 quarterback in 2024 and then quarterback 8 in 2023. And the reason why this is not going to change is these numbers coming down are because the Kansas City Chiefs are actively, correctly adjusting to the new NFL. The new NFL, what you want to do to beat the cover 2 high defense, you want to just throw checkdowns and run the football. So they run the ball with Isaiah Pacheco or whoever is healthy that week, or the Kansas City Chiefs, they go ahead and just throw under routes, drag routes, slant routes, tunnel screens to Rashee Rice. That's why Rashee Rice is so extremely helpful in fantasy football, where he doesn't catch a ton of touchdowns. He doesn't make any amazing plays, but he's just a PPR monster because the Kansas City Chiefs throw so many easily catchable passes to the guy, and that's why he's so valuable. So the problem here, Patrick Mahomes is going way too high in our drafts, and the reason why it's going too high is for a good reason in real life. So we can absolutely not expect this number to change. Now, the guys around him, Baker Mayfield was a top 5 quarterback last year, straight up outscored Patrick Mahomes. So if Patrick Mahomes is going higher than Baker Mayfield by 12 spots, why would you take Patrick Mahomes when you can get Baker Mayfield, someone who will probably be a better fantasy football quarterback for even cheaper? You can also get Bo Nix or Kyler Murray for much cheaper. And both these quarterbacks coming off the board at quarterback 8 and 9, they have significantly more rushing upside than Patrick Mahomes has. And if you're looking for fantasy football points out of your quarterback, we know it's all about that rushing upside. That's how you can score points on top of just those passing yards, because quarterbacks with high rushing upside, they have very high floors, which is going to lead to less bust weeks. Patrick Mahomes, an extremely, extremely, extremely frustrating player to go ahead and start in lineup leagues last season. For the playoffs, I know he went off, but not at all worth the price tag of quarterback 6. Part of it is just his name. He's Patrick Mahomes. People know he's the GOAT. In your ESPN home leagues, people are going to reach on this guy every single time. Make sure you are not the guy going ahead and drafting Patrick Mahomes. Now, the next player, overrated quarterback that we need to bring up, going to be San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. And just like Patrick Mahomes, good quarterback in real life, but the problem I have why I don't want to draft him is going to be his price tag, currently going off the board at quarterback 13, where just one spot above him, Brock Purdy has no rushing upside. One spot above him, you can get Justin Fields with all the rushing upside in the world. Absolutely so much better of a draft pick. Go ahead, just take Justin Fields instead of Brock Purdy. They're going back-to-back as quarterbacks 12 and 13. Justin Fields has a rushing upside. Brock Purdy doesn't. Brock Purdy, yes, he has been historically pretty successful when it comes to fantasy football. However, he is losing weapons each and every single season. Christian McCaffrey can't seem to stay healthy, and Deebo Samuel is now on the Washington Commanders. And even when Brock Purdy had these guys, he was quarterback 6. He wasn't an elite quarterback. And last season, quarterback 14. That's, those smart viewers out there might understand quarterback 13 or quarterback 14 is worse than quarterback 13. So we are drafting him to do better than he did last season, when last season was pretty much a really good example of what we can expect from this player going forwards. It's a quarterback, no rushing upside. His amazing cast of characters around him, it's dwindling every single year because they paid Kittle, they paid CMC, and now they're about to pay Brock Purdy. But we are looking at this guy and talking about drafting a quarterback who not even this guy's own team are excited right now to be drafting this guy. We're expecting him to get about $50 million because, frankly, that's what he deserves. He's an elite quarterback, but the 49ers are dragging their feet when it comes to paying this player. So if the San Francisco 49ers don't even want to pay Brock Purdy, why would we want to go ahead and draft him highly in fantasy football? I think going back to his ADP, Caleb Williams, ton of uncertainty, got a ton more pieces out of the draft and out of free agency. They're building a monster team around them. I think Caleb Williams, with his rushing upside, is a significantly better pick as well over Brock Purdy in this range. Drake May, also another guy who the team is building around, also a guy with more rushing upside than Brock Purdy, and the uncertainty that comes with Drake May's situation makes me think that if we draft Drake May instead of Brock Purdy at the cheaper price tag, it's possible that Drake May evolves himself into an elite quarterback. And I keep saying the words elite quarterback just to define exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to an elite quarterback. Our WARP, that is wins over replacement player graphic for Underdog drafts, and specifically Best Ball Mania scoring format, shows us that quarterback 1 is obviously a huge difference maker, and then your elite quarterback range is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can see on this graph after quarterback 4, there's a huge drop off in what the quarterback actually gives to you. So every time you're taking a elite or a quarterback at all on Underdog Fantasy Football drafts, we need to ask ourselves, does this guy have top 5 upside? And if not, they're not a difference maker. We don't have to draft them, because you can see the difference between quarterback 11 and quarterback 19 is very, very small. The graph starts to flatten out, so we know those are not difference makers, and we know our assets are better spent in different spots in that scenario. So that's why we don't want to select Patrick Mahomes, because he's not going to finish top 4. We don't want to select Brock Purdy because there even kind of is a little bit of a smaller tier. From 5 to 10, there's a smaller tier of quarterbacks, but that's where you want to go ahead and go for Justin Fields, go for Caleb Williams, go for Drake May. Those are the guys who are lower down on the board, but have all the uncertainty and the newfound situations that could possibly boost them forwards into this better range of quarterbacks and maybe into the difference-making range of that 1 to 4. But when we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy Football, or especially on ESPN, we just want to make sure we are not going ahead and overdrafting these two quarterbacks, because what they're going to do on the field is not worth the ADP, especially in ESPN, where Patrick Mahomes is going to go really, really high. And then on Underdog, Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy both don't have the juice to make them difference makers. But if you stuck around this long, thank you for watching the video. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And have a great day.